You know, there's a war going on right now, all around you, that you can't even see. It's this incredible, silent conflict that's been raging for almost 500 million years. The battles are fought for the highest stakes, survival itself, and they're happening on every single leaf, stem, and root out there. This isn't science fiction. This is the real, constant war between plants and the microscopic world trying to devour them.
And don't think for a second this war doesn't affect us. I mean, look at this. Back in the 1840s, a tiny little organism, basically a water mold, single-handedly wiped out Ireland's potato crop. The result was the Great Famine. Over 1 million people starved to death. Millions more had to flee the country. A microscopic pathogen literally reshaped the course of human history. That's the kind of power we're dealing with here.
So, in this explainer, we're going to go deep into this microscopic battlefield. First, we'll set the stage for this unseen war. Then, we'll get inside the mind of an attacker and look at the pathogen's playbook. After that, we'll see how plants fight back with a surprisingly complex immune system. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why this ancient arms race matters so much to our food supply right now.
All right, let's kick it off. The unseen war. Think about it. For about 460 million years, ever since plants showed up on land, they've been like a giant, stationary, all-you-can-eat buffet for the entire microbial world. I mean, they're just this huge, irresistible source of energy, sitting there for the taking. Now, most of these microbes are what we call saprophytes. They're the cleanup crew. They wait for plants to die, then they break them down. Totally harmless, actually pretty helpful. But a certain group evolved a different strategy. They thought, why wait for the plant to die? Why not attack it while it's alive? And those are the pathogens, the agents of disease. And this isn't just one type of bad guy. We are talking about a whole rogues gallery of invaders. You've got fungi, causing diseases like rusts and mildews. You've got the oomycetes, like the one behind the potato famine. Then there are countless pathogenic bacteria, and of course, viruses. Each one with its own unique toolkit for attacking a plant.
Okay, so let's shift gears and look at the attacker's playbook. We're actually going to follow one of the most common invaders out there, a single fungal spore on its mission to infect a plant. To really get how they succeed, you have to understand that pathogens play a numbers game, a big one. Get this, a single gall of maize smut can produce 200 billion spores. Let that sink in, 200 billion. With numbers that huge, the odds are pretty good that at least a few of those spores are going to land on the perfect target. It's all about overwhelming force. So once a spore actually lands on a plant, this whole critical sequence kicks off. First, it has to stick, right? It uses special glues for that. Then it germinates. It sends out this tiny little filament called a germ tube. And this is the moment of truth. That little germ tube now has to figure out a way to punch through the plant's tough outer skin.
So how does it do that? Well, for a lot of fungi, the answer is this absolutely incredible biological weapon called an apresorium. The tip of that germ tube swells up, it gets hard, and it starts building up just immense internal pressure. We are talking about pressure that can be over 80 times what you find in your car tire. It is literally a biological battering ram designed to physically smash its way through the plant's defenses.
So how in the world does it build that kind of pressure? The secret is melanin. Yep, the same pigment that's in our skin. Now, don't worry about following every little step in this crazy chemical diagram here. The key takeaway is this. The fungus uses this pathway to build itself a super strong waterproof shell made of melanin. This lets the fungus trap molecules inside, which makes water rush in, building up that insane pressure, just like an overinflated tire that's about to explode.
Okay, so once it's inside, the pathogen has basically two main lifestyles it can adopt. And the source material has this brilliant analogy. You've got the necrotrophs, or the thugs. They just smash and grab. They kill the plant cells with poisons and enzymes, and then they feed on the wreckage. Then you've got the biotrophs. These are the con man. They need the plant cells to stay alive, so they use stealth and manipulation to secretly siphon off nutrients without getting caught.
And that brings us to the other side of the story. Because plants are not just sitting there taking this abuse. They have a multi-layered, highly sophisticated immune system to fight back against both the thugs and the con men.
Plant resistance really operates on two main levels. First, there's what's called non-host resistance. This is broad, it's general. An oak tree just doesn't get potato blight. It's not a host, plain and simple. But things get way more interesting with host resistance. This is super specific.
Within one single species, like wheat, you might have one variety that is totally immune to a certain kind of rust, while another variety gets completely wiped out by it.
So, how does that really specific resistance work? Well, back in the 1940s, a scientist named H. Flor had this revolutionary insight. He was studying flax rust, and he came up with what we now call the gene-for-gene concept. And the basic idea is that this specific resistance is a result of a direct molecular conversation between one gene in the plant and one gene in the pathogen.
And this picture shows exactly how it works. The best way to think of it is like a molecular lock and key. The pathogen makes a protein, that's the key. Meanwhile, the plant cell has a receptor protein, that's the lock. Now, if and only if the pathogen's key fits into the plant's lock, all the alarm bells inside that cell start going off.
And what happens when those alarms go off? Well, one of the most dramatic defenses is called the hypersensitive response, or HR. The plant literally triggers programmed cell death. It deliberately kills its own cells right at the site of infection. This creates a dead zone, which effectively walls off and starves those biotrophic con men who need living cells to survive. It's a total scorched earth tactic, and you know what? It works. All right, let's pull back for our final section and look at the big picture here. This microscopic battle isn't a one-and-done thing. It is a constant, escalating evolutionary arms race, and it has global consequences.
This arms race creates what scientists call a boom and bust cycle. Here's how it works. A new variety of a crop is released with a powerful resistance gene. For a while, it's boom time for farmers. Great harvests, no disease. But eventually, a pathogen evolves a new key that doesn't fit the plant's lock anymore. All of a sudden, that resistance gene is useless. The pathogen population booms, the crop goes bust, and the race is on to find the next new resistance gene. And for decades, this is how we've stayed in the race. Plant breeders find a resistance gene, a lot of times in a wild relative of a crop, and then they start this long, slow process of conventional breeding. You can see it here. They cross the wild plant with a high-yielding crop, and then they spend years, sometimes more than 10 years, crossing it back again and again, trying to get rid of all the unwanted wild traits while keeping that one critical resistance gene.
But our understanding and our tech have been evolving right there alongside the pathogens. It started way back in the 1890s with simple observations of inheritance, then Flor had his game-changing gene-for-gene idea in the 40s, and now we use incredible modern tools. Today, marker-assisted breeding uses DNA markers to find the resistance genes. It lets breeders see which plants have the goods without waiting for them to grow up, and it speeds up the whole process dramatically.
So what this all shows is that we are no longer just spectators in this ancient war. We are active participants. Our ability to feed a growing planet really depends on us understanding this incredibly complex dance of attack and defense and using what we know to tip the scales in our favor. The pathogens, they never stop evolving. The only real question is, can our science evolve faster?